Well, hello and welcome into Scoreboard Business. I'm Neal McCready, Chase Parham here as well. It's been a crazy day in the SEC, and it's just 4:31 in the afternoon. So there is a lot to get to. We will get to all of it on this show today. Ryan Brown will join us here momentarily. It'll be interesting to get his thoughts on what is happening in the ACC and the SEC, maybe the ACC too. But the SEC for sure, as I watch Arkansas just score against Auburn again late in the second quarter. That game very competitive on the Plains. Will Tony Tsoukalas, who covers Alabama for Bama Insider, it's part of the Rivals.com network. Tony joined me yesterday. You'll see that interviewed. Also, Chase spoke with Hope Blount of
Emily Blount.
Emily Blount. I said Hope. I meant Emily of St. Leo, and we'll talk about business on the square during weirdness. It's typical. It's fitting that we're talking about weirdness on a day that's awfully weird in college football. I got sucked into Texas-Oklahoma, Chase. It was a, I think, 5 overtime game?
4
overtime game. Great game. Not a great game.
Oklahoma
very
winning by 8.
game.
And, I mean, we have no real money on it. It's just in our picks. But losing, getting points when the other when the favorite covers in 4 overtimes does sting. Like, that is a level of bad beat there where, like –
Do you have Texas too?
Yeah.
I did
just a kicker. Just make a kick, and we're at least guaranteed the cover there. So yeah, a little bitter. Pretty good day so far, but it could turn, as you said. Right now, Auburn is not close to covering against the Razorbacks. Texas A&M beats Florida. Had Florida giving 7. So we'll get into all that. But yeah, pretty nutty day to this point. And again, it is it's 4:30. Only one game has really gone to script to this point, and that was South Carolina blowing out Vanderbilt.
Arkansas fails to convert the 2-point conversion, so it's 2.5 minutes to go in the first half there in Auburn. It's Auburn
12.
17, Arkansas 12. Yep.
Okay.
I will tell you, Scoreboard Business brought to you by The Rogue. The Rogue, your destination for fine men's clothing. Their stylist hand-select pieces from top designers, from work to lifestyle to nightlife. There's the perfect something for everyone. The Rogue has all the best items from Peter Millar, Martin Dingman, Jack Victor, Halsey, True Grit, and more. The Rogue has delivered fine men's clothing for more than 53 years. Their classic style, attention to detail, and commitment to excellence continue to make The Rogue a special place to shop. Duckhead has returned to The Rogue. The return of this icon brand remains true to its roots by producing garments of enduring quality and timeless style. So come by The Rogue, welcome back this American icon, and join the revival. Known for their gold school chino for years, the 1865 5-pocket and gingham sports shirts are great for game day, work from home, and a great value. So check out their website, therogue.com, Instagram, or come by and see them at 4450 I-55 North in Jackson, or like I said, at therogue.com. We'll be talking to Blake Kokenauer later in the day. He's with Blue Delta Jeans. I've got on the Blue Delta Jeans khakis. You have Blue Delta?
It's khakis too. Yep, we're in very close to the same pant today.
So you guys will see. You'll see pants. We'll talk to Blake about what's going on at Blue Delta. Chase has a big golf trophy. I think the tournament's next weekend.
It is. So we'll have 2 big golf trophies in a week here in the studio.
So we got a big golf trophy. We'll show you that. You hit them up on social media. You can email them at info@bluedeltajeans.com or on all their social media at Blue Delta Jeans. Like I said, we'll have food later from St. Leo. Guests will join us on the Rafters Music and Food Hotline. Like I said, Ryan Brown will be with us, Tony Tsoukalas as well. I'm coming to you. Chase is coming to you from the Clark Ford Studios. Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi, 662-257-1900. Call it to get a quote for Corey Clark and the people there at Clark Ford. Got a couple minutes till we get to Ryan. I don't know what the biggest shock for me today was. I'll tell you this. So I started my day with the big text from Gabe DeArmond.
Okay.
He goes, take LSU, lay the points. And he tells me Missouri has all these COVID issues.
Missouri had 2 scholarship defensive tackles available today. 2. That's it.
So I did, and that did not go well.
I'll tell you what, though. I picked Missouri to cover earlier in the week, and it was more about LSU than it was Missouri. LSU's bad on defense. Bo Pelini's done a terrible job. They have not been a cohesive unit. This is probably going to be a little bullish. We'll talk to Ryan Brown about it in a minute. I don't know that my opinions changed much, because here's the things we know. We know LSU can't guard the pass.
No.
We know they're bad on defense and give up a lot of points.
Yeah.
We also know that
Marshall's terrific now. He's a great receiver.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah.
And then in the other game, nobody said A&M can't win games. It's that A&M loses the game it's supposed to or supposed to win later.
Well,
it's a season-long thing with A&M. I'm not overly shocked they won today. I will say they control Kyle Pitts better than anybody has to this point. He did not beat them today, even though Florida did score a lot of points. A&M on defense had a pretty good game plan. They got after Trask. They got him outside the pocket, which is the only way to disrupt that offense. And A&M said, you know what? Kellen Mond's out and going to win a lot of football games for us. We're going to run that son of a gun. We're going to be very good on offense in a run game. And they did. Look, Florida's not good on defense.
No.
For relative to a top 5 team especially.
A&M found themselves today.
I mean,
for sure.
We'll see.
Thanks to Webb. I started off right, boys. He says, take one shot of whatever you want. We'll do some shots. I'm sure there will be some shot-type drinking later in the day. Neal Forbes presents the bourbon of the week. We'll get to it much later in the day, but it's a single-barrel Peerless.
That is a store pick from High Cotton. That actually is a lot of the Bourbon South guys. That was a trip I was invited on to go do that pick and did not end up going. So I'm curious to try it. I've not tried that yet.
It was a 111 proof, by the way. All right, let's get to Ryan Brown, and I'm fascinated to hear his thoughts on a really weird day, but a fun day. And frankly, if you're an Ole Miss fan on a day like today,
what the hell?
Well, this is when you want weirdness, because a lot of times weirdness is contagious.
You think so?
A little bit. I think people
Bama sitting around in the hotel today going, no, what?
Well, I think Bama sees weirdness. Ole Miss it's more for the Ole Miss kids than anything else. They see the weirdness and think, oh well, hell, why not?
That's fair.
By the way, people have asked about the weather. It's fine.
It's raining.
It's raining.
That's it.
It's a tropical depression. That's what it is. All right, let's get. I'm gonna get Ryan here. Hello, Ryan. You're on with Neal and Chase. How are you, sir?
Wonderful. How are you guys?
We are good. Just kind of getting started, getting ready for Alabama and Ole Miss tonight, 6:30 on ESPN. I'm sure that you will be watching that one. I would imagine you've got a TV going right now on Auburn and Arkansas. You're going to hear a lot of conversations about the Hogs, about the Tigers and the Hogs later in the day. First, before we even get to all that, just your quick thoughts today on kind of what you're looking for tonight with Alabama and Ole Miss.
Well, I think the perception over here is that this would be a game where Alabama's offense could do most anything they wanted. And look, having watched Alabama's offense and Ole Miss's defense play, it's kind of hard not to come to that conclusion. I think Alabama would like to find some things in the run game. They're only averaging 110 a game, and that's ninth in the conference. And Nick Saban wants to be better than that. So I think you would see Alabama make a concerted effort to line up and run the ball anytime they want to in this game, just to show that they can do it with Georgia on deck next week.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what Ole Miss's defense can do, if anything, against a very balanced Alabama offense. You talk about the running game. I mean, it's still Najee Harris back there, and Mac Jones has been terrific. They've had a lot of big strike capability. Ole Miss has struggled to stop. They couldn't stop Kyle Trask at all, and then last week they couldn't stop the running game at all. They found a way to win, which is a credit to Matt Corral and Lane Kiffin and Jeff Lebby and Elijah Moore and Jonathan Mingo and a lot of people on offense, but giving up 600 yards a game is not a recipe for winning. And when you put it up against an Alabama team that, you know, is as good as they are, it's a recipe for embarrassment if you don't do it better.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see Alabama try to do that. I mean, they've shown they can throw the ball, and they've shown they're extremely talented at receiver. Even last week, you know, John Mechie had a breakout game. You already know what you had, Waddle and Devontae Smith and Miller Forrestall at tight end. But that's just kind of the one thing, you know, Najee Harris had 98 rush yards against Missouri, but, you know, last week against Texas A&M, Alabama was actually trying to run it to burn some clock and just really couldn't do it consistently. So I think if you be Alabama, you got to figure that one out. Now, you know, I know we'll get to this, but Georgia certainly is they're in a dogfight right now with Tennessee. So maybe that Georgia defense isn't the end-all be-all that a lot of people thought it was coming out of the Auburn game last week. But it's still, I mean, Alabama's got to have a better run game moving forward. And look, I know fans at the SEC probably look at it and say, I can't believe Alabama would complain about anything. And after watching the first 2 weeks of the SEC, they do look to be the best team in the conference. I would agree. But you lived over here long enough to know when Alabama's got a good team, Alabama fans want it to all be good. There's no being, and Nick said it the same way. I mean, he's kind of, he mirrors the fan base in that. There's no being somewhat good or good in most aspects. You want to be good in absolutely every aspect, and that would be the one weakness Alabama has right now. The defense may not be 100% as good as we thought it was coming out of the Missouri game, but I think running the football is the biggest concern.
Now, Lane spent the entire week telling everybody this is Alabama's best team ever. He's been very consistent with that, Ryan. He has said that at least 27 times, all the way from talking to us schmucks to Dan Patrick this week. So that's been his thing. I tell you, I think the league, and I don't know if this is COVID, spring, you can make it reasons. Maybe it was just the way it was going to be anyway. There's obviously a pecking order to some extent, but in some ways 2 through 13 is just all smashed together, and we're just trying to figure out what slices on top of what. There's just flaws everywhere.
Well,
2 through 13.
Yeah. I mean, I would ask you guys. I mean, I think everyone will accept Alabama's the best team in the West. And I guess after today, you would think Texas A&M the second best in the West.
Sure.
They just beat Florida.
Today they are, yeah, for sure. Today, yeah, they looked really good today. I mean, and I don't know what I think. I mean, Auburn's not the second best team in the West, at least not in a typical year. LSU's not the second best team in the West, not in a typical year. I guess Ole Miss gets a chance to make its case tonight, but I don't expect a lot. So I guess right now you'd have to say Texas A&M by default.
I mean, the only reason this Auburn-Arkansas game isn't tied at the half right now is Auburn like to punt in the end zone. And, I mean, it is a 20-12 game. Sam Pittman, for some reason, went for 2 a moment ago in a touchdown. I don't really understand why. Down 5 in the second quarter, you feel it necessary to go for 2 in the second quarter, but Sam Pittman did. And it is an 8-point game at the half. So now Sam Pittman, and this is a pet peeve of mine, which is why I'm talking about this, will have to chase those points for the remainder of the game now because now he's down 8. So I will never understand why coaches do that. That said, I mean, this Auburn team has flaws. I mean, you guys see Ole Miss. Mississippi State was king of the world week 1. They looked awful last week. A&M, Alabama smashed them. They look good today. LSU is a complete and total mess. So, yeah, I mean, I don't even know. Somebody asked me that earlier today on Twitter, who's the second best team in the West. And, you know, I said the same thing you guys said. Right now, it's Texas A&M, but I certainly didn't think that last week.
I told Neal a minute ago that maybe I'm being bullish on this with a couple of my opinions, but I don't know that today has changed my mind a ton as far as the games have been played. Look, A&M's got talent. They've recruited well. It's not about that. I mean, even when I dog them constantly, it's not that they can't win a game. It's that they're going to go and lose a game they're supposed to win later on. They can't put a season together, and they end up 8-4, 7-5, or whatever instead of taking that next step. I think, if anything, LSU is just absolutely the certifiable train wreck that we feared they might be after the state game. I don't know otherwise that I'm overly convinced on anything else changing so far today, though.
Yeah. Without looking, give me whoever A&M has next week, and I'll lay the points or take the points or whatever points.
Hey, Ryan.
I'm probably getting points.
Hey, yeah. Ryan, I'm going to do something real quick. I know it's a little disjointed for you, but I'm going to hang up on Skype, and I'm going to call you back on FaceTime audio real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Good. All right. Sometimes I think this is a weather thing.
Yeah.
It's my observation.
Okay.
I've noticed when I do podcast on wet days, as crazy as this sounds, and it might be nothing, but that Skype gets a little funky, and so we're just going to do this. Not going to be a big deal at all. I think this will solve it, but we'll find out. So we'll call him on FaceTime audio right here and see what happens.
I hope that's better. I hope the connection was not bad on my end.
I think that's better.
It's better. I was telling Chase just then, you're in a studio all day. I've noticed here on wet days, I didn't think about this until just then, and it's not consistent this way, but I notice on wet days sometimes Skype audio is muffled and FaceTime audio is really clear.
So bizarre. That is really, really weird.
Isn't that weird? I mean, I have no clue, but I'm curious in our stream to see what what people say, but you sound a lot better right now. Yeah, they're all saying the same thing. It's a Skype deal. It's really weird, but
so bizarre. Yeah, it's super weird. No, what I was saying through the muffle is I don't even know who they play next week, but give me whoever A&M's opponent is, and I'll take the points. I mean, that I'm with Chase. I mean, that's been the knock on them is they are just not. Well, they never had won a top 5 game, and now Jimbo's gotten that past him. Now he's got to prove he can do it consistently, and they just haven't. They've never been able to do that.
Yeah, Ron, well, not to cut you off there, but that's the weird thing with A&M's schedule, though, is their game next week's in Starkville. So if they get that win, they have Arkansas and South Carolina after that back-to-back before they go to Knoxville. A&M gets really interesting if they beat the Bulldogs next weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, it'd be just like them to lose to the Bulldogs. I mean, you would give me that. But, yeah, I would agree with you. If they can beat them, then you've got a couple winnable games. Now, again, you're already behind the 8 ball in the West because you lost to Alabama. But if they can find a way to win that game in Starkville, yeah, all of a sudden you're at least, in great position to be second in the West. I mean, I just don't know who else is going to be. I mean, even if Georgia beats Alabama next Saturday night, and watching this Georgia team today, Alabama looks better.
Yeah, I think so too. I went into today thinking Alabama was better than Georgia, and now I'm convinced of it. Now Tennessee's good. I do think. And I interrupted you. I'm sorry. I do think Tennessee. With all the Vols are back jokes that we do all the time. I do think whether they're back or not, I don't know. I do think it's obvious though that Jeremy Pruitt is turning them into a legitimate contender to at the worst be like the 4th best team in the league right now.
Yeah, but I mean, I would agree with you on Tennessee, but I'll go back to Georgia. Does Stetson Bennett look to you like the type of quarterback that can go beat Nick Saban in Tuscaloosa?
No, not a chance.
Not a chance.
Yeah, me neither. And I've seen Garantano, and he's had some moments, but I don't think he's the quarterback either. I mean, that's the whole thing in this whole run at Alabama. You pretty much have to be elite at quarterback to beat them, or. We've talked about this a lot, especially with the Ole Miss fans. There were days where Chad Kelly was elite against Alabama. He might not have been considered an elite quarterback, but boy, there were games against Alabama where he was elite. So I just don't see either one of those quarterbacks being good enough. And, look, Tennessee has not run the ball today. I just saw they had 14 rush yards in the first half. So, one of their touchdowns was a gift from Georgia. But, I mean, they're playing right with them right now. And I'm with you. I think Jeremy Pruitt has this headed in the right direction. I just don't know that he's quite there yet. Not there enough to be beating Georgia in Sanford Stadium if Georgia is what we think they are.
Just how bad is LSU? What's that record going to
terrible.
Look like?
Yeah. I mean, what happened to Bo Pelini? I mean, I thought, look, he may not be the best defensive coordinator in the country, but boy, I thought they'd be better than this. They could not get stops. And then, I mean, guys, first and goal from the 1 with the game on the line, and you get 4 plays.
Nothing. They got nothing.
Nothing. Yeah, you get 4 plays, and the ball never even crossed. I mean, I don't think the ball ever even crossed the goal line, like on a pass or a run. I mean, it was incredible, man. 4 plays from the 1 to win the game against Missouri, and you can't get it in.
Georgia pulls within 21-20. 12 minutes to go in the third, and that one, I will say this, the Missouri quarterback, and I can't think of his name right now, the redshirt freshman, he did have a hell of a game. He made a lot of really nice throws, and if you're Missouri, that's a double win today. Not only did you beat LSU, but you might have found your quarterback long term.
I got to tell you, I came out of the Alabama game, Blazicek, something like that's his name. It's a real nice name.
Yeah.
But I came out of the Alabama game with Missouri thinking he looked like the better quarterback. I mean, I said that after the game, that I think they started the wrong guy. Not to say that if he had started against Alabama, they win the game, but I think he played better against Alabama. And a lot of it was in mop-up time, so you didn't know. But, I really think he's the guy for them moving forward. And, look, I don't know that this changes my outlook on Missouri. My outlook on LSU could not be worse right now. I mean, they're a mess. I mean, they could score points, obviously, but I don't know how they're going to beat quality teams with that defense. That defense is just completely lost. Flush anything they did well against Vanderbilt, that doesn't matter. We've seen what Vanderbilt is. I think we've seen what the real LSU defense is against Mississippi State and Missouri. And think about that now. That's Mississippi State and Missouri. I mean, they've still got to play Alabama's offense. They've still got to play Ole Miss's offense.
Yeah.
I mean, Ole Miss can move the ball on them. They've still got to play Florida's offense.
Yep.
I mean, they've got some. They got plenty of losses coming. And even though Auburn's offense isn't dynamic, Auburn's defense is good enough to slow down that LSU offense. So I don't know how they beat Auburn. I mean, this all of a sudden something disastrous, like a 3-7, I think, is on the table.
I do too. I was thinking about it today. I was kind of looking at their schedule, and I was going, well, that's not a gimme. That's not a gimme. That's an L. That's an L. And no one's getting fired. I know that. But this thing does have the beginnings, and it's early. It's 3 weeks. It's a pandemic, the whole deal. So granted.
Sure. But
it's got some Gene Chizik feel to it.
Well, and that's what everybody compares it to. And I so hate to do that because I so much like Gene as a person. He is such a good guy. But, I mean, it's the obvious comparison. And that next year, I don't know if you guys remember this, but the very next year, Cam Newton graduates, Barrett Trotter takes over as the quarterback. Gus Malzahn's still there as offensive coordinator. A lot of people forget that Malzahn was still there for that year. And Utah State comes to Auburn. And Auburn has to basically pull one out of the fire to beat Utah State. And you immediately start thinking, boy, that did not look anything like last year's team. And, I mean, a lot of Auburn fans almost kind of bought into it all. This team still has the magic. Look at this. They still, the magic's still alive. And then as the season went on, you realize, no, this team's no good. And then a year later, they're a disaster. And Chizik's getting fired. And it does have that feel right now in Baton Rouge, even maybe a little bit quicker than what you saw with Auburn because you've got a 10-game conference schedule rather than Utah State's and teams like that you can fall back on.
Well, Chucky Keaton was a hell of a quarterback at Utah State, Ryan. I mean, not everybody. No, not everybody. It is what it is. No, look, today from Missouri just made them probably a little more annoying because Drinkwitz is still talking. He has no idea what he's doing in this league whatsoever, and now they just have this imaginary pelt on their mantle as they move forward.
Yeah, it's one that, 100 years from now, you'll look back and say, oh, my gosh, they beat LSU. And then you're like, there wasn't much to that. And I realized this week, Eli Drinkwitz at the press conference looks like the sports information director that's getting the press conference started before he turns it over to the coach. If you watch that press conference, because he wears his glasses and he's got his hair. I mean, he looks like the SID that's just getting the press conference set up and letting writers know they need to identify themselves when they ask a question and make sure the TV cameras are white balanced and all that.
Yeah, I keep waiting for him to say, we'll hear from the coach first, then we'll take questions for the student athletes. All questions directed for the student athletes. Then once we dismiss them, we'll get back to questions for coach.
Please identify yourself and your affiliation before asking your question.
And the first time someone doesn't do it, he interrupts. A reminder, please identify yourselves and your affiliations. Like, Coach,
by the way, if you're watching Tennessee, Georgia,
day.
That's exactly why Tennessee can't win big games. That's Jarrett Garantano in a nutshell. He's played well enough for you to be in this game and just throws an absolutely horrific interception against Georgia.
He's not an accurate passer. He never has been. And then right there, he throws off his back foot because he doesn't want to get hit.
Yep. I mean, it's just he's maddening, man. If you're a Tennessee fan, Jarrett Garantano is just maddening for you.
You wonder how good they'd be if they had a real quarterback.
I know.
I think they'd be pretty damn good, but he's just incredibly average.
Yeah, LSU real quick on their schedule. They got Florida next week. South Carolina.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, suddenly the Gamecocks can give them a game.
That's a question, yeah.
I mean, South Carolina did to Vanderbilt exactly what LSU did to Vanderbilt. I mean, South Carolina, literally the same score.
I don't think I'm serious when I say this. I don't think LSU's any better than 3-6 when Ole Miss heads there to close the year.
Who's after South Carolina?
Auburn. That's a loss right now. I know Auburn's not great, but they can do things against LSU.
I want to ask Ryan about Auburn in a minute, but continue because
Alabama.
Lost.
They got Arkansas and then A&M. They're not beating A&M right now.
No, they're not beating A&M.
No.
And then Ole Miss.
I mean, Arkansas is not a given, not the way they're playing.
Well, let's talk about that game a minute. It's halftime, 17-12. You mentioned Auburn gets 7 of its points on a blocked punt. And I realize that counts, but you're not going to block a punt every week in all likelihood.
That's a profound statement by you.
Well,
You're probably not. Yes.
I watched an SEC game where it said, it's very important to score. That was one of the things that was said today on the SEC network during the Vanderbilt South Carolina game, was that scoring was important.
Yeah.
I don't know what I think about Auburn right now. I thought initially they looked pretty good, but they did nothing at all against Georgia, and now they're doing nothing at all really of significance against Arkansas. And I granted that Arkansas is playing better, and Barry Odom's done a really good job with their defense, and they play with a different level of belief and whatnot, and all of that stuff, blah blah blah. And I actually think Sam Pittman's a good fit there. I think he's going to do okay. But come on, man, this should be a game that Auburn's in control of right now.
Yep. What's weird is I think a lot of people thought if you follow Gus Malzahn, generally after an embarrassing loss, if he has an inferior opponent that follows, it's basically his get-right game offensively. You find a way to fix all the offensive ills and get the fans off your back for a little bit. And the big question about Auburn coming into this game was their ability to run the football. And they've actually run around, pulling up right now, but I think they were over 150 in that half. And Tank Bigsby had a good half. And they haven't been able to cash in on the points with it. So Tank Bigsby, 11 carries, 106. They carried it for 215 in the first half. But now your quarterback's throwing for 45 yards. So all of a sudden, you figured out how to run the ball, and now you can't complete anything downfield. I mean, your per attempt is 5.6. So, it's just like you fix one problem and another problem crops up if you're Auburn's offense. And, I mean, it's just alarming right now because I think Auburn fans thought if you find a way to run the football consistently, that helps Bo Nix. It will open up the passing game. Well, you just got 215 in rush yards in the first half, and you're only up by 8. And that leads only because you blocked the punt, like you said, for a touchdown. And I know it's very concerning about Auburn's offense right now. Chad Morris has done nothing to improve it. Whatever everyone thought he was going to magically, come in and wave his wand and make Bo Nix a prolific SEC passer and fix Auburn's offensive line issues, he's done none of that. As an Auburn fan texted me in the first half, Chad Morris didn't bring anything new, and he kept all the same old bad Gus stuff. So, I mean, that's kind of the criticism right now of this offense. It is so tough to be a coach in this state, man. I mean, you ought to see some of the stuff that gets sent to me during the game.
Yeah, I mean, Saban's won like half of the national championships, and every week people are bitching about something that didn't happen during an Alabama game.
They don't run it well enough, Neal. They don't run it well enough.
You guys have no idea how spoiled you are.
They don't.
5 years after Saban's gone, assuming that Alabama takes a reasonable step backwards, it's going to be hilarious.
Yeah.
What do you think of Arkansas? Is there a chance that they're going to upset the apple cart and be a 3-7 team instead of the 0-10 team that we all assumed they'd be?
Yeah, I mean, they've already exceeded my expectations by beating Mississippi State last week. I mean, I thought they were over the season. Look, I mean, they obviously play really hard for Sam Pittman. I think you could look at them and say that. They get after it for Sam Pittman. And Felipe Franks has played pretty well in this game against Auburn. I mean, you look at Franks, 12 of 17 in the first half for 148 and 2 touchdowns. I don't know what more you could ask of him. They haven't run the ball particularly well, but Franks is still keeping them in the game. They're a disaster on special teams today. They've missed an extra point. Actually, it was a mishandled snap, and the kicker didn't get the kickoff, and they've had a blocked punt for a touchdown. So special teams has cost them 8 points. But I think Franks has played well for them, and they have been so bad at quarterback for so long. Not that Franks is a world beater. And you watch Trask play, and you wonder how Franks was even playing in front of him at Florida. But, he's made them better at quarterback. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So, look, I mean, they're a dangerous enough team to make you think about them now, right? And that's something that you really hadn't had to do for quite a while now, is even think about Arkansas. But I think right now, most of the teams in the league have to think about that game at least.
Yeah, I think so too. And you mentioned Franks. The one thing he gives them is just a little steadiness at quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah, and experience in the league. I mean, he's a guy Franks wasn't tremendous at Florida, but he's good enough to quarterback of the 10-win seasons. He's played in a lot of places in the conference. I mean, he's just an SEC quarterback, and you probably haven't had an SEC quarterback there since, gosh, I don't know. I don't know the last guy I would say he played quarterback at Arkansas and looked like an SEC quarterback. I mean, it's been quite a while.
And they're playing today without Raheem Boyd.
Yeah.
That's got to be a concern for Auburn. If I'm Auburn, I'm a little bothered that I'm not putting this game away any more than they do.
Yeah.
And
Auburn's got a lot of guys that sorry to interrupt, Neal, but Auburn's got a lot of guys out too.
Yeah.
And that's just something you're obviously just going to have to deal with this season. That's going to happen a lot this season. But Auburn's got a number of guys out. And I'll tell you a big story about Auburn, something we haven't touched on yet. KJ Brett, who is the middle linebacker, one of the better linebackers in the conference, and the guy that calls all the signals, keeps everybody aligned. He's one of Auburn's most important players defensively. He had surgery on his hand this week, and there's a great deal of speculation he's done for the season. So if Auburn's lost him, that is a big loss in their defense.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of the things I was kind of getting back to Ole Miss for a minute in the last few minutes we have with you. It's for me what's interesting with Ole Miss's schedule right now is I don't think anybody looks at Ole Miss tonight and goes, Ole Miss beats Alabama. I don't think that's realistic, but hell, it's college football. Who knows? But I'd be shocked. But all of a sudden, Ole Miss's next few games are incredibly winnable if Ole Miss is what I kind of think Ole Miss is. They go to Arkansas. It's obviously a very winnable game. And then they play Auburn at home, and the more I watch, the more I think that's a game Ole Miss not only could win, but arguably is like half and half on it. And then after that, it's who is it? It's Vanderbilt, which should be a W at this point.
Should be a bloodbath. Yeah.
And then
Carolina,
and then South Carolina, which again is the same thing. And suddenly you've got a chance to be.
You could be 4-3 with a close of A&M, State, and LSU.
And listen, again, LSU, that's not off the table. I mean, I don't know that
not
team,
even a little bit.
I don't know. I don't know that a 10-game season's improving them. You might say, okay, well, they got time to get their defense right. Watching their defense, I don't know that they're getting it right this year.
Well, and the other thing with LSU, Ryan, is the mental portion of this, which is a year ago, you're playing for all the marbles. You're playing so well. You're having this dream season, and college football could not have been more fun in Baton Rouge than it was a year ago. This is not going to be as fun, and staying motivated to play at a high level late in a lost season is difficult. Yep. Trust us, we've covered it. Kids check out a little bit. They're humans. They check out a little bit, and it can get weird.
Well, and I think what Ole Miss fans will see tonight in relation, because you brought up the Ole Miss-Auburn game, I think what Ole Miss fans will see tonight, they'll move the ball on Alabama. Like, I'd be surprised if Ole Miss doesn't score 24 points in this game. I'd be surprised at that. That's kind of, now they're not going to, I don't think there's any chance they're going to slow Alabama down much, but I'd be surprised, something like a 50-something to 24 final would not shock me at all in this game. They'll move the ball on Auburn's defense, too. Auburn's defense isn't the standard Kevin Steele defense it's been over the past couple of years. They had too many guys to replace. Now they're fighting injuries. And here's the thing about Auburn. Where Ole Miss can't beat Alabama is because they can't slow them down. Auburn's offense can get so pedestrian. They'll be able to slow Auburn down some. That is a tricky game for Auburn. There is no doubt about that. When you start trying to count Ole Miss wins and losses, that's why that can be a game, is because Auburn's offense can get in these funks where they just don't pick up first downs.
Okay, I've talked to different people about this. Some people say, hey, there's no grudge between Sabin and Kiffin. Some people say there is. I talked to someone today who was in a position where he would know, who said if Alabama has a chance to run it up today, they're going to do it. That Saban won't take his foot off the pedal tonight if there's an opportunity. You're in that state. I know you haven't had these discussions per se, but what's kind of your gut feeling on the relationship between Saban and Kiffin from Saban's perspective?
I think it's probably cordial, because I don't think at this point Lane Kiffin is a huge threat to Nick Saban. I don't think, and you would know better than me, I don't think in any of the recruiting head-to-heads Saban is losing those to Kiffin. He's not going to beat him on the field tonight. So, if you're not beating him in recruiting, you're not beating him on the field, you're not a threat to him. And look, I mean, Kiffin, somebody called our show this week and said, do you think Kiffin will take shots at Saban this week? That was on Monday. And I said, yeah, absolutely he will. And he'll also sing his praises. That's what Lane is. And I said, and it'll probably happen at the same news conference. And lo and behold, on the first press availability of the week, he did that. He took a shot at him and sang his praises. I mean, that's just who Kiffin is. But I don't think Nick Saban is that threatened by him right now. And you got to remember, that was a mutually beneficial relationship. As bad as it ended, and it ended bad, he changed Alabama's offense for the better. He brought Alabama's offense from the, two tight end personnel to let's spread it out, let's take advantage of the athletes, and let's play what everybody else in the country is playing. And I know Nick Saban is appreciative of that. It's why he hired him, and it was successful. And there's no doubt that Lane Kiffin, he said it on SportsCenter this morning. I'm sure he said it to you all this week. He's not the coach at Ole Miss without Nick Saban pulling him off the heap and giving him a second chance. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship that ended poorly, obviously, but I don't think there's a ton of bad blood. Now, I'll say this about taking the foot off the gas. Saban really doesn't do that against these former assistants. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he just likes to spank them or what, but the average margin of victory against former assistants, and there's 20 games now, is something like 24, 27 points. And even last week, the game was over, and Mac Jones is still in, and he went deep for a touchdown with like 6 minutes to go against Fisher. It is one of those things where Saban has not really shown a propensity. I don't think it's aimed at Lane Kiffin. I just think it's for whatever reason what he's done against these former assistants.
He's never lost one. Lane gave his record. I forget what it was the other day. Yeah, he's never lost one. I tell you though, what made me think that, at least relative to any animosity with any former assistant, is, and I told Neal this, Saban could have easily disregarded the question completely when they asked him about Kiffin calling him elderly and the whole cover him as defensive back thing. And as much as Saban can, he joked a little bit. He did let his guard down. Yeah. He laughed. I thought, okay, that's probably a sign that relationship is somewhat amicable and fine, because with a lot of people that he really had some sort of issue with, he just kind of moves on. You know what I mean? He doesn't even give it the time to do as much chuckle as Nick Saban's ever going to do at a press conference.
Yeah, keep in mind, Saban, has kind of in a way done this before. He was obviously a Belichick disciple and came up through that system and then went to LSU and then ends up in Miami coaching the Dolphins against Belichick, against the guy that kind of taught him the ropes, and he learned so much from it. Has a massive amount of Nick Saban has a massive amount of respect for Bill Belichick. Even though they're almost, colleagues, still Belichick was the guy that he coached for. So Saban has done this before. So I think, there's a little bit of a value in that, and knowing that, look, I was there once too, and I would have wanted to be treated a certain way as a guy that used to work for this guy, but now is coaching against him.
I got to ask you, what is Jeremy Pruitt's COVID strategy with the ears covered and that's it?
Yeah, he's not. You're not going to catch it from the back of his head or his ears. No, so that's
COVID
good.
Is not getting in his ear canals. It is just not. Now,
no, it is not. I think though, Neal, the virus is too smart to go in the ear canals. So this is a bad strategy by Jeremy Pruitt. He's protecting something that the virus is too smart to do.
Speaking of the virus and protocols and all of these things, our friends at Texas A&M appeared to have been a little lax on the 25%. That place had more than
they had a crowd.
They had some people there.
It was rocking too. How fun was that?
It was great. I was like, way to go, Ross. Just give him the finger.
It added so much to that game too. Oh, it was so refreshing to hear something close to a normal crowd in a game.
It did. Yeah, it was the first game that really felt normal.
Yeah. It rocked. And, look, they've got the core cadets that they were there for the Vandy game, too. Just fewer people watched the Vandy game than watched the Florida game. They were there in the Vandy game, and they drill together. They are in their living quarters together. So, they're able to come to the game and everything's okay. But it was even beyond that. You could tell the students, they filled in their section quite well at that game today.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, we really appreciate all the time week after week. We look forward to doing it again next week. It's Ole Miss and Arkansas next week at 2:30. Is that right?
It's 2:30 or 3. It's one of the. It's 2:30.
It's a 2:30 game. Yeah, because the next week is the Masters. Ryan's as big of a golf guy as you are, Chase. So y'all might be like incredibly distracted next week.
Let's have our own little conversation. Y'all can do whatever you want.
No. The Masters is not until November now.
Oh yeah.
Oh, is that right? Why is
it's week of Alabama?
So why is there no?
Is it Alabama?
Because Bama Georgia's prime time CBS.
Oh, is there a doubleheader CBS, or is it just?
I would have to look because when you said 2:30, I thought Ole Miss Arkansas was at 2:30 CBS.
Yeah, no, it's a random ESPN2
I have
time.
no idea.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, because all along they'd said 11 or 3, and so when it said 2:30, I was like, wait, what? But okay.
Yeah, Bama Georgia is prime time, but yeah, the Masters is not until Bama LSU, and I am a big golf guy. And when it's Bama LSU week, I will gladly talk some Masters with you.
Okay, well we'll look forward to that, or Chase will at least.
Yeah.
I'll just go take a nap somewhere. I don't know who y'all are talking about when you do it. All right, buddy. Appreciate you. That's Ryan Brown, WJOX. Nice of him, as always, to spend this much time with us week after week. Let's see, Chase. It's 5:11. You're more aware of our schedule as it pertains to St. Leo than I am.
I don't know. Do you want to go ahead? Does it matter what way we do this?
No.
Let's talk to Tony Tsoukalas.
Okay.
Let's do that. We'll talk Alabama-Ole Miss in that interview. It will allow us to figure out what's going on, and then we'll come back. We'll do the other, and then we'll move on from there in the show.
Okay. Tony Tsoukalas, who covers Alabama for Rivals.com, BamaInsider.com. He and I talked yesterday about midday, about 25 minutes. Got into what's going on with Alabama. We talked more about Lane Kiffin, Nick Saban, which is the big storyline in this game tonight. We talked about Alabama's defensive issues and their desire to get the running game going, how weather might impact it, and more. So I'll get to that interview now, and we'll be back on the other side of that. Tony Tsoukalas of Bama Insider, part of the Rivals Network. He joins us here on the Rogue pregame show. All right, Alabama comes in number 2 in the country, 23.5, 24-point favorite, depending on your betting line. There's a lot of – we could spend a lot of time talking about X's and O's, and we'll get to some of that in a minute. But the intrigue in this game is Lane Kiffin versus Nick Saban. I know it was your first year, I guess, on the Alabama beat was Lane Kiffin's last season at Alabama. What's your thoughts on the matchup, Tony, between those two guys? What is their relationship like, and some of that kind of thing?
Yeah, they're very much not the same personality. I don't think you need me to tell you that. But I do think there's a respect there. I do think that there's like a general urge for Lane Kiffin to kind of poke the bear and get underneath Saban's skin, and he does it better than probably any other coach. But then again, I think, Saban has a way of I think he has a big amount of respect for Lane as a football coach. And look, Lane Kiffin's the person that brought the spread and this Alabama offense you're going to see and that you have been seeing. Lane Kiffin started that, and then Alabama's brought in some great coaches after that. But, Lane Kiffin kind of took Alabama from that 3 yards in a cloud of dust, or that classic, pro style that was getting phased out of college football. So, there's no Tua without a Lane, and there's no Jalen Hurts without a Lane. And look what he did with some of the, he turned Blake Sims into a guy that was, a running back and into one of the statistical best years Alabama's had with a quarterback. So there's a lot of respect for Lane Kiffin from Nick Saban and the Alabama program, but you can tell their philosophical approaches might be a little bit different, right?
Yeah, it's funny because, I didn't know Kiffin, and I still don't know him because no one really gets to know Lane Kiffin, I don't think. But, I'd followed him from afar. This is the first time that I've, paid a lot of attention to his characteristics and that kind of thing. And I was telling Mick and Kyle earlier in the week that he reminds me a lot of Saban in the way that he talks, the way that he handles local media, the way that some of the verbiage that he uses, the stuff about process and all of that is very clear that he sponged Nick Saban for those 3 years that they were together. And I thought it was funny. I guess it was on Feinbaum or something yesterday. He talked about a group text that he has with Jeremy Pruitt and Kirby Smart and Will Muschamp. And, he made a joke that he says, we all come from the same father, but it's very evident that he has, first of all, a ton of respect for Nick Saban, but that he learned a lot, that he viewed that those years as an opportunity to sort of say, okay, the way that I'm doing it must not work. This guy works. And even though he and Nick Saban, I don't think have a lot in common personally, he put all that aside and learned a ton during his time in Tuscaloosa.
Oh, I definitely agree. I think like I just talked about the respect from from Saban's side. I definitely think there's a respect from Kiffin's side as well. I know he hired like a strength conditioning guy when he went to FAU, and I'm not sure if that guy's still at Ole Miss, but it was very similar to like the approach that Cochran had. And you're right, he does kind of use some of that same terminology. He's not personality-wise Nick Saban, but I do think that it's accurate to say that he took a lot of Saban's principles and is kind of using them in the way he coaches as well. I think that's a lot of Saban's assistants. I mean, you'd be kind of foolish not to. I think, Lane recognizes, that he coached under one of the best, or if not the best college football coach that's ever been. And so he's just taking what he can from that and kind of putting it into his style too. I don't think they're totally the same. But I think that's a good thing. I think, Lane has to have his style, and I think it's great that he got to learn from a coach like Nick Saban, who might be kind of a polar opposite in terms of personality, because it allows him to kind of mold, his approach and how he wants to do things with somebody that, might not be the same as him.
Obviously, as you said, he was brought in to sort of modernize Alabama's offense, and he obviously did that because that's still what they're basically running. I think I saw Saban talk about, Ole Miss was kind of doing some of that before Kiffin got to Alabama. The Hugh Freeze offense was one that obviously was effective against Alabama. Those last 3 years, they beat Alabama twice and then lost in Oxford, but in a game where Ole Miss scored a lot of points, they just couldn't stop. Ironically, they couldn't stop Lane Kiffin and Jalen Hurts that day. But I thought it was a contrast with the way that things ended. You were there. It probably was not the exit that Lane Kiffin really wanted. He had gotten the FAU job. It'd been rumored all that year that he was going to join Ed Orgeron at LSU. I mean, there was a lot of distraction there. He left, I think, before the title game, a title game that Alabama ultimately lost. How much grudge, if any, is there just from the way that the exit happened?
I think there might be a little bit of grudge, and honestly, it probably played a part in costing Alabama a title. I'm not sure. I mean, look, they had a really big chance of beating Clemson that year. They were up in the first half, and it seemed like that the game plan on that offensive game from, ironically, Sarkisian, who's now doing well at Alabama, I don't know, maybe that factored in. It definitely caused somewhat of a distraction, Lane's departure. Look, it's hard when you get a job, as a head coach somewhere, to continue on. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I mean, Jeremy Pruitt did a good job of kind of holding on and being that coach for Alabama and balancing. And you could say that Kirby Smart kind of did the same thing too. It's just, that's so difficult to do. And did Lane do the best job of it? Probably not. But at the same time, at that point in his career, it's almost like you got to take care of yourself. So I don't necessarily blame Lane for how that happened. That's kind of unfortunately the way college football happens. And sometimes, in December you get a job and it could throw off, your team's plans. I think there probably was a little bit of a resentment then. I think now it's kind of just a respect. I think, like we said, Nick Saban can look back and look at all the success he's had with Lane, and it's really hard to argue with that. So it maybe some frustration but still that respect.
So when this COVID thing happened and we got into the summer, I kind of thought, I was thinking about which coaches will sort of handle this the best, because if you look at Alabama over the last 12 years, that has been, the buck absolutely stops at Nick Saban's door. I mean, he has his fingerprints all over the program, and yet this was going to be the first year that some of that gets taken away a little bit, because now the medical people are the ones that, hey, we've got a test, and this is what the test came back, and contact tracing and all of that stuff. And I kind of wondered, would Saban's nature of, and I don't mean to paint him as some sort of a maniacal control freak at all, but he likes to control his program. Would having to kind of back off some of that to let it be a different offseason, a different preseason, I wondered how well he would adapt to that. It appears that he adapted quite well. And as he's gotten older, I know he's softened a little bit. just from your observations there, how has Saban handled just the different preseason, the different camp, no spring, all of that stuff? I mean, he's a system guy. He had to deviate from his system. How's he handled it?
Yeah, so that was your point you just made up was, that you just made was that, I heard that a lot. There was a lot of question over whether, Saban was going to be able to kind of, because he is a process guy. And so if there's a change in his process, but there's two terms of thinking about that really. It's is he going to be able to deviate his process? And then which coach, and then on the other side of the, of the ball, which coach would you want if you had to build a process around something new that nobody's dealt with? And I think that second side is really what has allowed Nick to kind of be successful through this process, is because he's just kind of adjusted his ways and created a new process and a new adjustment for getting Alabama through this. I really think, they set guidelines, they set, a plan and stuck with it. The new strength and conditioning coordinators were influential in kind of like making sure that the players had a game plan to kind of like train from home. And then Alabama's been really handling, COVID testing really well. We don't get all the information on that, but it seems like everything that they have is very structured and very according to plan, like you would expect from Saban. And so I think that's really what's allowed them to kind of deal with this. I also feel like they've been fortunate, or I don't know if you want to call it fortunate, or maybe this is also has to do with Saban, but you haven't seen any Alabama players really opt out. I mean, they've had a couple of players that we haven't heard from, like, got this figured out, and that he's got the players, gunning and ready to play this season. Because I was personally expecting, one or two opt-outs from, if you look at this team, there's a few first rounders on it.
All right, let's talk about this Alabama team. I thought coming into the season they'd be the best team in the country. I know everybody has Clemson number one. I don't have an AP vote. You could never give an AP vote to someone at a rival site because there's just no chance that we would be objective. I'm being facetious. Alabama would be number one on my ballot just about every week. They to me so far look like the best team. What have you seen just overall in general? Where does this team compare to some of the previous Alabama teams?
It's really good. It's similar to last year's team, and that sounds bad because that last year's team, lost 2 games. But I thought last year's team was one of the more talented teams Nick Saban's had. I think the offense is just as good as last year. I think the defense is better. Obviously, it's more healthy, but I still think there's holes in this defense. I think if we talk about the way the Ole Miss, I think Ole Miss is going to be able to hit Alabama for some scores, and I think Alabama still needs to figure out a lot of things on defense, but it's there. The talent's there. It's a fast defense, and I think it'll get figured out. I'm not sure when, and I'm not sure if they'll be, it'll cost them anything. But I think when you're looking at talent, I think Alabama's probably Alabama or Clemson, but I think I'd give mine to Alabama as well, just with the talent they have on both sides of the ball. I mean, it's really a great team. And if that defense figures itself out to, just a little bit more, it could be one of Alabama's best teams. It's really hard to say one of Alabama's best teams because they've had so many title teams, and it's hard to compare them. But the talent's up there.
It's funny, and I know you have a lot of opinions on this. I'm sort of setting you up here. People assumed because Mac Jones was a backup for a long time that he's just a backup quarterback. And I would always tell people, when we would talk about Alabama, and obviously Tua was a terrific college player, one of the most dynamic college players in recent history. But I would say, people forget, man, Mac Jones was heavily recruited. I mean, Kentucky wanted him badly. I remember Ole Miss recruited him. A lot of people wanted Mac Jones, and he went to Alabama, had to obviously wait his turn, and then his turn arrived probably a little before people thought it would when Tua got hurt last year in Starkville. You look at the numbers that Mac Jones has put up, starting with filling in that Mississippi State game, and they're elite. He looks like an NFL quarterback when I watch him play, and Lane Kiffin talked about this a little earlier this week. I actually asked him about Mac and about Matt Corral, the quarterback matchup today, and he talked about the one thing that always impressed him with Mac Jones was just how competitive he was, just how confident he was, and how anybody would always say, hey, man, why don't you go to Alabama? And Mac never really thought about it that way. I know you share a lot of these sentiments. I mean, he's a guy, now you're covering him day in, day out. To me, as good as Tua is and was, Alabama has not fallen off at the quarterback position.
No, they definitely haven't. I think some of the doubt surrounding Mac Jones is just look, we talked about how Kiffin kind of, invigorated this Alabama offense. Well, Alabama's not used to having elite quarterbacks. That's still kind of a new thing for Alabama, right? So they had Jalen Hurts, and he, was so different than what they've had. Then they have Tua. This is the best quarterback they've ever had. And then you go back to Mac Jones, and I think that there was a thought, even though Mac Jones, like you said, Elite 11 quarterback, highly recruited guy, I think there was a thought that, best case scenario, we're just going to get maybe A.J. McCarron, who's in his own right a great quarterback. But, that was like, Alabama's going to go back to this,
People were clamoring for Bryce. People were clamoring for Bryce Young.
Oh, yeah. And I want to see Bryce Young's a little bit more of that exciting. Look, Mac Jones is not going to beat you with his legs. He's actually faster than what people think, but he's not a dual threat quarterback. He's a guy that can move in the pocket. I think best case with his legs, he's going to be more like a Joe Burrow, and maybe he can get that strength to elude tackles, to break tackles, to set up throws. But he's not a dual threat guy. He's not going to beat you with his legs. And I think Alabama fans just thought, they're going to go back to the Stone Ages, and they were never going to do that. You look, my whole point, I've been high on Mac Jones. I mean, I've said that, I've predicted him to be the best quarterback in the SEC. I voted him first team on the SEC, and that was tough to do because I think Kyle Trask is a great quarterback, and I think they're right there. But I think when you look at the weapons that Mac has, that's why I did it. But look, you look at what Mac Jones did last season, and I'm not surprised. Sure, he threw 2 pick sixes against Auburn, and that was bad. And that, you could argue that cost him the game, but he also rallied them back against a good Auburn defense, put up better numbers than Burrow did against that Auburn defense. And then the next game, he, tore apart a Michigan defense that ranked, even after that, top 10 in the nation in pass defense. So to see him do this again, I was never surprised. I always thought that, with the offense he had around him, and just with his talent, and how driven he was this offseason, I've written about that as well. This does not surprise me. I think at the end of the year, Mac Jones will have a decision to make in terms of the NFL, and I think he could be a second-round guy. And who knows? The NFL needs quarterbacks so much. I mean, he could even move up from there. But I think he'll have a decision to make. So you might see Bryce Young next year, but it might be because Mac Jones is left for the league.
And I'm not comparing Mac to Joe Burrow, but it's a good example, right? Because a year ago, if you think back, and it's LSU had such a magical season, and Burrow was just terrific. Maybe had the best single season that a college quarterback has had, and I don't know, Cam Newton, maybe even beyond that.
Probably ever, man.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, he was fantastic. I mean, his numbers were great. But my point is a year ago at this time, I guess week 4, week 3 of the season, nobody was talking about Joe Burrow as the first pick in the draft. Nobody was even talking about Joe Burrow as a first-round pick. And then he played his way into that, and the NFL saw it and said, oh, man, this kid can play, and then works his way up, and now all of a sudden he's a must-get guy and really looks good with the Bengals right now as a rookie quarterback. So, I don't think that's a stretch to think that Mac Jones could go from nobody really talking about him to 6-7 weeks into a season, people going, I think this guy can play, to the end of a season going, I think this is an NFL quarterback, to maybe even this is a franchise guy. I don't think that's outrageous to talk about him as a potential first-round pick. So I'm getting to this with them. So they come to Ole Miss tomorrow, or today as people hear this. We're taping this on Friday late morning. Ole Miss played twice this year. Kyle Trask lit them up in the air. Kentucky got them on the ground. Ole Miss offensively has played really well. Defensively, it has been a real struggle, Tony. So you're looking at Alabama. I know they got Georgia in a week. The passing game has been dynamic with Mac. I don't know that the running game is where Alabama typically has it, where Alabama wants it, certainly. What's your sort of anticipated plan of attack for the Tide Saturday?
I think the weather will probably play a factor, the wind and the rain. And you mentioned Ole Miss's struggles on the ground. Alabama's trying to make a point with its running game. It's not where it wants it to be. This could be an opportunity to kind of correct that, especially with the weather. You've got a guy like Najee Harris. He's going to want to get his first 100-yard game. You're going to want to break in, Brian Robinson and Trey Sanders as well. I think that they're going to keep it on the ground with us. I know Mac Jones has been really successful, but I don't think if Ole Miss can't stop the ground, then it's not going to leave the ground much because it just with the weather and, it would allow Alabama to kind of fix that problem heading into Georgia. That's just how I see it. You're right about Ole Miss's defense. I think this could be a high-scoring game because I do think that Ole Miss can put up points on Alabama, but I just do not see them stopping Alabama's offense too much. So now if Ole Miss goes all out against the run, Alabama has the weapons to beat it through the air, but I do kind of see heavy ground game in this one.
Yeah, it's a weird from a strategy standpoint. And it's, you look at this, it's funny because there's a temptation to say, Alabama's got this big game coming up in a week, and they do. It's the national game, and everyone's looking at it. In many ways, for Ole Miss, next week is much bigger than this week. Ole Miss can't beat Alabama in all likelihood. For Ole Miss to win tonight's game, Alabama has to come out and beat Alabama while you're on the field with them playing well. Ole Miss can beat Arkansas, and that would get them to 2-2. Then you get Auburn coming in after that, and Auburn's a much more winnable game for Ole Miss from what I've seen so far than Alabama is. And then you get Vanderbilt and South Carolina. So, it's a weird thing. Everybody will look at this and go, "Oh, number 2 team in the country," and all of that stuff. I would argue that for both of these teams today, their eyes are a little bit forward to the next game because obviously Georgia is a defensive juggernaut that Alabama is going to be challenged by, and Kirby's been close before with Alabama, and it's a much more losable game for Alabama than Ole Miss is, and for Ole Miss, that Arkansas game's a big opportunity to get another win, to move forward, to build momentum, and all of that stuff. So it is interesting to watch styles today. Like I was thinking about what Ole Miss would try to do today. Do you sell out, trying to stop the run to make them throw? But Alabama's got that big play capability with Waddle and Smith and other guys too. Or do you let the game, let them try to grind it out and hope for a fumble or those kinds of things? I don't know. It's a weird spot. For Ole Miss, bottom line is they've got to figure out a way just to get more fundamentally sound on the defensive side of the ball. DJ Durkin's a terrific coach, but he didn't inherit a lot of raw playmakers on the defensive side. So it's just been a struggle, and I'm with you. I think Alabama's going to score a lot of points. I'm interested to see, though, why you think Ole Miss is going to have, scoring opportunities to score. I've seen people say Ole Miss gets into the high 20s, maybe into the low 30s against Alabama, and I think, man, I don't know. Corral's played awfully well, and Elijah Moore's been terrific, and they've developed some other guys. Jonathan Mingo was terrific at Kentucky. But this is a different deal. This is an experienced Alabama team, and getting into the high 20s today for Ole Miss would be a real accomplishment.
Yeah, so I think my score prediction, I don't know if I've had to make one, but I said like 45-20. But to me, 20 points, I don't think Alabama fans are going to be happy giving up another 20-point game, But I could see, it's just this Alabama team has been very mistake prone. And I could see just Ole Miss hitting it on they've got enough talent on offense to kind of take advantage of those mistakes. And you mentioned Alabama's focus might not be on this game. It might be on the week ahead. I think it's going to take Alabama to have its back against the wall to kind of wake itself up for some of these. I'm kind of expecting, the defense to maybe kind of improve against Georgia the following week when I think it's like full focus. And man, if we mess up, we could lose this game. That kind of focus on defense. Sure. I'm not sure they're going to have that against Ole Miss, especially if their offense is just going to, run back and forth against the Rebels. So I could see, Ole Miss has got some talent. Elijah Moore is a great receiver, one of the best. He's got a lot what Jalen Waddle has for Alabama, kind of similar guys in the slot. It'd be real interesting to see the matchup between. It's going to be some more on more crime. But Elijah Moore in the slot, and then Alabama's got a freshman at star in the nickelback position. Look, Malachi Moore, the Alabama defensive back, he won SEC Freshman of the Week, had a great game against Texas A&M. They tested him 14 times. They threw at him 14 times in that game. I wonder if Ole Miss also tries to exploit him, especially when you have Elijah Moore. Malachi did a great job as a freshman, but he still is a freshman. You've got a lot more, you got a potential first rounder and Patrick Surtain on one side, and Josh Jobs seems pretty solid as the other cornerback. So I would wonder if maybe they try to follow that game plan kind of similar to what Texas A&M did, and maybe hit Alabama on some delayed tight end plays, some running back plays, and then maybe over the middle with Elijah Moore. And I think that they'll probably be able to hit him for some big plays here and there.
Last thing, just kind of your thoughts so far on the SEC West. Obviously, Alabama appears to be the class of it. You've seen Texas A&M up close and personal. What are just your observations on what the division looks like? How do you see it sort of playing out?
Yeah, it's really hard to pick a team other than Alabama, and I thought that there was going to be some stronger teams. I think for the first time since I can remember, you could really make an argument that the East is the better of the two divisions, and that's weird to say because I think you've been seeing the East get better, but it's always just been so on the heavy to the West side. I'm not ready to totally say that yet. I think LSU, you might see them kind of bounce back. You've only had 2 games from them. I think Auburn's kind of this wild card. I'm interested in you said that Auburn versus Ole Miss game. That's one of those games that you're right. I could see Ole Miss winning that. And that's a huge game from the Ole Miss side that I'd circle because I don't know what to think of Auburn. I think Auburn could be a great team, and I think they could just fall apart and lose 4 games this season. And that's how I feel about a lot of the SEC West teams. It's oh man, they could really challenge, they could bounce back, or they could end up with 4 losses. And I just don't think any other team besides Alabama and then maybe LSU, I'm not sure about them. And it's a weird year for the SEC West. Yeah,
by the time people hear this, Texas A&M and Florida will be in the history books. And I don't know what I think about A&M. I don't – so through the first 2 games, as I stutter to get that out, I didn't like what I saw. It looked like something was wrong. And who knows, maybe by the time people hear this, they would have beaten Florida by 21 points, and I look like an idiot. But I don't know.
And that totally changes everything I just said, because if Texas A&M can go beat Florida, then they're 2-1, and their only loss is to Alabama. And then, maybe they're in that conversation for competing in the West. But, yeah, I totally agree.
Well, Tony, thanks so much for the time. Really appreciate it. Good catching up with all you guys this week, and good luck the rest of the way.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Again, our thanks to Tony Tsoukalas. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to catch up on some games and stuff. We've got our food from St. Leo. We've got to film something back there in a minute. Yesterday, as part of our Oxford Eats series that we're working on, Chase visited with Emily Blount of St. Leo. I'll play that for you now, and then we'll be. It's brought to you by Visit Oxford. Chase just mouthed to me. I'm catching up, doing the best I can here. But we're watching Auburn and Arkansas. It's 20-18 Auburn, and then Georgia pulling away from Tennessee a little bit right now. Maybe the Vols are not back. So anyway, here's Chase and Emily Blount, and we'll be back with you here in just a few minutes.
Emily Blount here with us this week, St. Leo Lounge for this week's Oxford Eats, and we're on a double-decker bus. We've done this a little different ways, but we're going to try to do this on home football weekends. Alabama, obviously, in town. Emily, not what we had in mind when we first saw Ole Miss Alabama on the schedule, but they are playing football. I guess to start off with 2 weeks ago, Ole Miss has this home opener against Florida. From a standpoint of a restaurant, a bar owner in town, how do you feel like things went overall?
Well, first, given COVID-19 and the pandemic, we are just super excited to be open at all. We're so happy that we're playing football. And so that is the biggest thing. Of course, it's not totally normal. We're still at 75% capacity, but maintaining distance inside, so that doesn't really change it so much from the 50%. Last week was great in the sense that people were out, fans were excited, but it's not the same level that we're used to in Oxford. But I also think that people are just super thankful to be having anything, interactions to say the least.
Yeah, you and I, we're in businesses that probably are as connected to the football program, to having these kind of weekends as anyone. I mean, over the course of the pandemic, I mean, we're all kind of freaking out. I mean, we've talked about, Neal and I had 10 different business plans, and you hope you get to use the one with football. I mean, just when you go home at night, what has it been like the last 5 or 6 months?
Oh, man. When March came around and we started seeing what was happening, it was maybe one of the hardest things I've ever gone through. On March 17th, I laid off 77 people. It was the worst thing I've ever done. And, I've been through some pretty rough stuff in life. But the first few months were really stressful. And as I think they were for everybody, just trying to figure out how were we going to survive? Were we going to survive? And then as things became clearer, as, levels of government assistance happened, it became clear to us that we were going to be able to move through and make it. And weirdly, after the security of knowing we were going to be okay, it's kind of the most relaxed I've been. I don't know if I should say that, but June, I was the most relaxed I'd been in a long time because I knew that we were going to reopen. I knew my people, all of my employees were going to be okay. And I could see that, there was some light at the end of the tunnel. Although, of course, we're still in the tunnel. We're not all the way out yet. There's a lot that remains to be seen. But, so, as you know, I took the restaurant and I put it where the lounge was, and then, vice versa. And I kind of think it's the best thing that's ever happened to us. I feel like the restaurant grew up, and the little teeny space that we were making this, crazy busy restaurant happen in is now a chill, cool lounge. And it just seems like it works better, so I'm happy for that. Because
that was done to give you more space, right? I mean, just to open everything up. I mean, it's obviously a little bigger, broader, higher, everything. You can spread people out and get more people in, right? Absolutely.
I mean, at the original location, at 50%, you can't run a full service, casual fine dining restaurant there. It just, the numbers don't add up. But the original lounge space, which is now the St. Leo, so confusing. Why did I have to name them both with St. Leo in it?
Is that a mistake looking back?
Yeah, totally. Because even I mess up what I call them all the time. But that's double the size, and honestly, the facility is just so much better. There's 4 bathrooms. There's a huge kitchen. The servers have a place to go. If you've eaten at St. Leo in the original building, it was everybody was smashed in 14, square or 14 feet wide. So, anyways, we're happy about it. It seems like the silver lining out of the whole thing was that the business will run more efficiently and better both now and in the long term.
So, is that a permanent change?
Oh yeah.
You're not going to go back.
No,
even when the pandemic is completely done or anything else.
No, it's permanent. It's for real.
For people that haven't been in town the last, few weeks, outdoor dining now allowed. You have a space at, St. Leo. I keep wanting to call it the lounge too over there, but it's St. Leo over there. A lot of people have done it. We're sitting here looking at Funky's. It's all around us, kind of behind us. Was that an easy decision for you to go that route once you figure out it? Kind of how do you think that part's going?
Absolutely easy decision. I love it. I hope that the city of Oxford hears us loud and clear, that everybody loves it. I keep on telling people to please contact your alderman, contact the mayor, tell them how much you love it. It's great. I mean, we honestly should have been doing this forever. Oxford is a deeply social place. People like to see each other. They like to be outside. When fall, spring, we have beautiful weather. So it was a no-brainer. I was already contacting the mayor before they had, plans in place to do it, and was just sort of hey, look what all these places around really the world are doing in response to this, because, we're at 100% utilities, 100% rent, 100% bills, and we just need to have more seating, really. So it's been great. I think people have been enjoying it a lot.
And you've kind of done lights, and you got to kind of interior decorate a little bit outside, didn't you?
I like to do that.
Is that the way you want it completely? I mean, would you keep tinkering with it? Is there other things you want to do as time goes on, or what?
If I knew it was coming back in the spring, I would probably do a little bit more. So of course, Hurricane Delta has to arrive on Alabama weekend because 2020. So first of all, 2020. But I would probably put like a more permanent tent fixture over there, because it's like barely raining, but you don't want to. What's someone going to do when they order a porterhouse steak, and it really starts to rain? So. Yeah, there's a few other things that I would do.
And you're doing some reservations most nights, not on football game weekends though. Kind of how have you got this planned out?
That is a new change. So we used to not take any reservations at all, and now we are taking about 30% of the tables. We're doing reservations, and we leave 70% open for walk-ins. Game weekends, we just let it go and see who comes in and seat as many people as we can happily. And we don't do any reservations just because it's too hard to manage. Really,
and you get up to 10 at a table, or 6? What's our per table right now?
Okay, the latest is you can have 10 per table, but everything is still social distanced, and masks when you come in, off when you're sitting down.
For people who haven't been in town, what do you kind of constitute the vibe of a game weekend right now? I mean, like I said, it's different. There's only 16,000 people in stadiums and that kind of thing. But for the most part, do you feel like you can come and move about as you normally would on a game weekend?
Yeah, I think,
Emily Blount here with us this week, St. Leo Lounge.
That you might have normally witnessed, if that makes sense.
Sure.
But I think the vibe is people who are big fans of either side and happy to be out and supporting places, including the town, and then of course everybody in it.
It does feel like there has been sort of that community effort for everybody to go, hey, let's go out, let's do some things, try to help really everybody, not just hospitality industry, but all the way around. I mean, the town has kind of wrapped their arms a little bit.
Oh, I think absolutely. And I imagine, I haven't been to a game. I think my husband's going tomorrow.
Okay.
But I imagine that the team wants to feel that support too, because it's got to be different, I've been watching these NFL games and they don't have anybody there, and I'm like, how do they feel about that? It's either great or super weird.
Yeah. So it's probably good for the road team because they're already used to kind of whatever, and you got to generate your own energy and whatnot at that point. So we are taping this on Friday afternoon. It's around 3:30 or so, and we're doing this. Obviously, when people are watching this, it's Saturday. I guess we're about to eat, courtesy of St. Leo and Visit Oxford. What do we having tomorrow? What are we doing?
So we're gonna send a bunch of stuff your way.
Okay.
We're gonna start out with some appetizers. Some fried mushrooms. They're local. They're from a super cool place called Bluff City Fungi. I keep on saying fungi, but it's really fungi.
Oh,
sorry, viewers out there. And they're delicious, if I do say so myself. I hope that's what you think tomorrow.
Okay.
We are going to send you some Gulf shrimp that we do in our wood-fired oven. We're going to have some farinata, which is, it's really a classic Italian street food. It's done in the wood-fired oven as well, and it's a chickpea pancake.
Okay.
Thankfully now, in this new place, because it's so much bigger, we have 2 wood-fired ovens, and so it's allowed us to do more out of them. You're going to have some pizzas, maybe the chopped salad because it's a fan favorite.
It is, yeah.
Maybe some gnocchi. We're doing that all made in-house now. And it has a home place pasture sausage ragu. And they're just up in Como. So representing some of our local people and farms, and I hope you enjoy.
So last thing, what are your hours right now? What days are you doing? What's going on?
All right, we are open Wednesday night for dinner, Thursday night for dinner, Friday 11 a.m. For lunch, and we go straight into dinner. We don't ever close, we stay open between 3 and 5 for the bar and pizza. And then Saturday and Sunday we do brunch 10:30 a.m. And dinner starts at 5. And then the lounge, which is now in the old St. Leo building, the lounge is open Thursday, Friday, Saturday at 3 o'clock. Tomorrow the lounge will be open at 11 a.m.
Thank you for the food and for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so I've got to add, adding a scene here to a kind of a weird deal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this right here, and then you'll be able to watch this.
This week with Visit Oxford, visitoxfordms.com. Our Oxford Eek series is St. Leo, as you just saw with Emily Blount. I talked to her on Friday from the double-decker bus, and she's given us quite the spread today. We have a lot of different things. We've got a crab ravioli today from St. Leo. We've got a little bit of everything here. We've got some the belly. I was fixing to say some whatever, so we'll try that here in a second as well. We've got garlic shrimp, one of my favorites here with the grilled bread. Everybody orders the grilled bread separate. You always need a little bit of that to sop everything up. Really is the best way to use that. We have got the white bean. That is one of Neal's favorites.
Absolutely
there. We'll pull through the white bean in a minute.
Absolutely incredible.
I know a lot of people don't necessarily like this, but you really need to try, or like gnocchi in general. Their gnocchi is absolutely great. You've got a tomato base there on their gnocchi. Another favorite with St. Leo is the chopped salad. The small is quite large, but if you get the big one, it can feed you several meals. It can serve 2 or 3 people there.
This is Campbell and Caroline's favorite dish, the margarita pizza, and it is very, very good there at St. Leo. It's just fantastic. Their pies are terrific. This is a little more up my alley.
A little more protein here. We've got pepperoni. We have a little jowl there with that option as well. So a lot of pizzas, a lot of appetizers here from St. Leo. Again, they don't take reservations on game day weekend or game weekends. Other nights you can get a reservation. You can do walk-ups. They've got outdoor dining as well, and they've switched it around, as you heard. What used to be the lounge, now St. Leo. You got more room there. What used to be the regular St. Leo, that's now a pretty cool lounge. So we've mixed that up. So a lot of stuff here, and we appreciate them and Visit Oxford.
Okay, thanks to Carson McCready for filming that real quick on a whim. I think he was upstairs playing his new FIFA game. He came down.
It takes a village, Neal. That's what it is.
It does. It takes a village. I suspect Carson will send an invoice of some sort for his 5 minutes of work there. So thanks to him. One thing I learned, you saw the technical snafu. In Ecamm, you cannot build a scene while another scene is playing live. That doesn't work. So had to do it a little different way. So we figured that out. It's kind of a fun little experiment there. Georgia now, Chase, up 44-21. The Vols were back, but they're not back right now. And
that turned quickly while we were worried about food and different things. That did not age well.
We were literally scrambling through a few things. It was very peaceful behind the scenes, but we lost track of the game, and boom. And Arkansas, 14:35 to go in the contest. Auburn now up 27-18. Arkansas, if they score here, will officially pay the price for chasing points early. You never chase points early, Sam. You don't chase points.
It felt like it wasn't going to matter, but it has in fact mattered at this point.
It absolutely matters at this point. So I'm updating some scores here.
While you're doing that, I'll tell you a little more about Visit Oxford. VisitOxfordMS.com is the website. Head on over and see what's going on. And, Christmas not too far away. They do a wonderful job during the month of December for the holidays, a little bit in November as well. Tunes Around Town will be back next month. I got kind of weathered out last night, but that's okay. We'll be back when they do the 4 different musical acts from 5 to 7. We know about the Oxford Oath, all the businesses, all the vendors taking care of people as much as possible during these crazy times. So, again, visit OxfordMS.com. Go to the events page. You can also see where to eat, where to stay, and more. We'll try to bring different establishments to you every single week. We've had 3 weeks of it. We've got 7 more to go. Again, St. Leo, one of our favorites today, as we bring you some of the favorites everybody knows about and some a little more off the beaten path as well as the year moves on. So, again, appreciate all those people at Visit Oxford for helping us out with the bus yesterday, with Emily as well from a little bit of a scheduling thing. She was awesome, as she always is. And, again, visit OxfordMS.com.
Scoreboard Business also sponsored in part by Heritage Properties. Heritage Properties, home to 3 communities in Oxford: Faulkner Flats, Cambridge Station, Lexington Point. All 3 properties, multifamily housing. They all offer on-site management and maintenance. They're pet-friendly, and they offer short-term leases. Faulkner Flats, located on Old Taylor Road, offers 1-, 2-, and 3-bedroom apartment homes, private patios or balconies, a premier 24/7 gym and tanning facility, a resort-style pool, a car wash station, and much more. You don't want to miss out on their special rates. 3 bedrooms now leasing for the price of a 2-bedroom. Contact live@faulknerflats.com or call 662-234-4558. Cambridge Station has renovated 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment homes 5 minutes from campus with multiple amenities, including free cable and internet. They're currently offering a single occupancy special. Just contact live at cambridgestationapts.com. And then Lexington Point, located less than a mile from campus, has spacious 1, 2, and 3-bedroom apartment homes with free cable and internet, covered parking, and much more. If you move in October, you get November rent free. And then Scoreboard Business is brought to you by Meadowbrook Wealth Advisors of Raymond James, a team in Jackson providing planning and investment guidance to clients across the state and the surrounding areas. Financial advisors Bill Geary, Logan Phillips, Chris Carrero, and Ryan Geary are partners with a commitment to personalized service, so call them at 601-368-2215 and see if they might be a good fit for your financial goals. Raymond James and Associates Incorporated, member New York Stock Exchange, SIPC.
So flip us on over to Arkansas and Auburn on the big screen.
Oh, okay.
Let's do that. This one is becoming a little bit of a bloodbath with Georgia and Tennessee. We've got another 35 minutes before Ole Miss and Alabama. We'll be with you on this feed for about another half hour. Then we'll flip over our in-game feed for the Tide and the Rebels. 27-18 right now. Auburn up on the Hogs, but the Hogs are driving, trying to still make it.
Yeah, a field goal here would not be the end of the world. It'd get you within a score. It's 4th and goal, so you're kicking here. It was number 2. I don't know why he came in to make a – it seems like Arkansas has a tendency to try to get a little cute.
And Arkansas should not be getting cute in any way. You have an offense a little bit. Use the thing you kind of have a thing for.
Do your thing.
Yeah, you're not cute. This is not the team to be cute. I'll tell you what you are getting right now, though. And look, Ole Miss is going to be favored next week, even in Fayetteville. You are getting a team play Ole Miss next week with some confidence. No matter how this game finishes, they win last week, they break the big snide. In some ways, a lot like 2012 when Ole Miss finally beat Auburn. They beat Auburn 45-30 or whatever it is. And that's a team that then goes to Little Rock and finds a way to beat that John L. Smith bad Arkansas team. But it does lift you up when you finally win a game. Now they go to the Plains. They're sitting here and they're competitive in the second half no matter what happens. I don't think they're going to win probably, but no, either way, they're kind of in it. So they're going to play Ole Miss next week expecting to win a football game. And the last time that Arkansas has went into a game expecting to win, a really long time, because frankly, not even today. When you went down deep in it.
Not really.
So they're going to play an Ole Miss team that is not lit up. It's not lit up the record books over the last few years. Ole Miss is going to get a little different Arkansas team. I think Ole Miss is going to win. Ole Miss is going to be favored, but there is a mindset change with the Razorbacks going into next week.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. 27-21.
I mean, and Auburn's bad on offense. Auburn can't score.
A wet ball lands on the ground. You pick it up, run it in.
I mean, it's been a crazy day.
I mean, there's no doubt about that. No moral victories. There's a little bit of a moral victory for them. Cecil Hurt saying Ole Miss is warming up indoors. I don't know. Not there. We're going to have hopefully a couple of scene setters for us in a minute. We're working on a couple of people that are at the stadium, and we'll go from there.
Do I need to send a text for that?
Yeah, let's see if we can get her on.
All right.
Yeah, I meant to tell you that. And Corey's going to join us too if he can.
Josh says he is listening while on shift at Oxford Fire Department. Appreciate all you do. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Kind of reading through the stream a little bit. Yeah, I've got a plate in front of me. I've got a little shrimp. Got the belly that I'm not really sure how to eat on camera because I probably should have gotten a knife for that, but it's there as well. The chopped salad's terrific. I'm trying to not. We're going to be on air for a while, so eating overly heavy is not really the move at the moment. But I am trying to eat a little bit.
Were you asleep?
This is typically almost even late for me for dinner. I mean, I'm an early eater. I don't eat really much.
Is that right?
Fast. Yeah, I don't eat late at all. I won't touch food after 6:30.
Probably one of my big problems is I have a tendency to eat dinner really late.
Yeah, no.
If I were smarter, when I got to 8 o'clock at night,
just cut it off.
It's just don't eat. Because you get to that point.
Well, and look, as much as I want to make fun of you, and I typically do about your eating habits, you're perfect for like intermittent fasting or something where you just eat for a certain period of time and then you stop. The whole 8-16 thing. I mean, you do have the willpower and the mentality to be able to do that. So, yeah, you just eat between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m., and that's it. Something like that.
People are saying in the stream that people took us out, but we're here, aren't we? Everybody can see us? It says we have excellent connection. We're on.
Really?
Yeah, I think we're okay. I don't know what that is. I don't know. I think we're all right.
No, Arkansas is not a gimme next week.
No.
It's not a gimme.
No, they're officially
Ole Miss
not.
should win. I think Ole Miss will win, but it's not a gimme.
I agree.
It's going to be a game.
I agree completely. I think it's very clear that they.
I think Ole Miss is just going to outscore them. They're not. I mean, they're still not good on defense.
Look, man, there might be something to this. You get better when Chad Morris leaves.
Chad Morris is killing Auburn right now.
I mean, there might be something to that. I mean, Arkansas is better than they were a year ago. They just are. They're significantly better than they were a year ago. This is 3 games in a row where they've been better than they were a year ago. They led Georgia in the second half. They beat Mississippi State, and they're right there with Arkansas with 11:32 to go.
Sam, see you in the thread. Thanks for the different goodies on Thursday night, including the beef jerky. You know, and I both tried that. If you were on Thursday, I just missed you. But anyway, appreciate you sending that along.
Team has not come out with 30 minutes to go. They're warming up indoors.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know.
Is that a problem?
No, it's just the Lane Kiffin experience.
It's different.
It's different. He has.
Orgeron warmed up indoors too. I know he full scrimmaged, but he did warm up indoors.
Well, yeah, but it was a.
I mean, he did a 60-play full.
What did I tell you? I told you about a turnover, and there it
Ball
was.
is on the ground on the plains. The Hogs have it. 11:24 to go. This thing's going to wrap up about the time we flip over.
2 weeks in a row that we're like glued to an Arkansas game because they're one of the interesting teams in the league right now. The league's nuts. Listen, I'm a big believer in what I'm about to say. I said this earlier. He might have been down. That's probably going to get reviewed. Yeah, he was down. I think he was down. I think that's going to come back. Sometimes these different deals are contagious. The day gets weird and it stays weird throughout college football, throughout a league. I don't know. That's a weird. I'll have to see a different angle.
Is there enough to overturn it back?
Let's watch. Let's see right here.
Elbow is down.
Elbow's down. You can't see where the ball is right there. It looks like the
looked
ball's.
like it was still in his arm.
Ooh, it's close. Really close.
If I'm not worried about the previous call, I think he's down.
I think the elbow was down. That last angle looked super close because it looks like the ball's already moving in the right arm. See where it is right there?
Yeah.
The ball's moving right there.
But
that's a fumble.
You think so?
Yeah, the ball's moving.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so.
You don't think it's still secure right there?
I think the ball's sliding in his arm.
Okay.
But I could be wrong. I mean, hell, we don't have the greatest view in the world right here. No, it's moving right there, and his arm's not quite down.
Radio said working out in the Manning Center to help preserve the field.
Okay.
Here's what I do love.
Okay.
Here's what I do love, and I don't know what the reasoning is or whatever. And this is not like there's like malice or like whatever, but Lane just does some weird stuff. Let it just be weird stuff. Like, there doesn't have to be a reason for everything. Well, let me tell you what he's actually doing. Well, he's just a little weird, okay? Like in a good way. Oh
wow, little NBA development. They overturned it. Little NBA development. Anthony Davis. Oh, I misread that. Okay, Davis is probable. I thought I read it the other way. I was like, whoa, Anthony Davis not available.
That's suddenly
for Game 6. That would get squirrely for the Lakers.
Does it end in 6?
I think so, but I'll tell you what, the Heat showed last night, and we won't spend 6 seconds on this. When they make threes, they're difficult. They're a difficult matchup for the Lakers when they can shoot.
Basketball team hits threes, they're difficult.
Well, but you know what I mean. When they make threes, it creates some matchup issues. So Auburn got it back. 2nd and 4 was a 6. That was super close. All right, we're going to try to get. Did you reach out to Haley?
I have, yeah.
Okay.
Is my camera a little fogged up?
It might be a little fogged up.
Okay.
We'll work on it in a little bit. I don't think it's a thing.
We got a minute.
Yeah, I don't think it's a thing. I try to call Corey here.
Yeah, Robert, we were talking basketball for literally 10 seconds. Like it was. You called us at a weird time there.
Yeah, we've been going for an hour and 35 minutes too. So
you caught 10 seconds.
You caught literally 10 seconds of that. I'm gonna try Corey on Skype audio. See what happens.
Okay. It's really loud.
At least he'll see that we tried. You never know with Corey at this point.
If you want something light, just going back to St. Leo, the chopped salad is absolutely terrific with the dill dressing.
Oh yeah, it's very, very good. So Auburn forced a punt. Get a pretty good roll. Arkansas will take over with 10:20 to go at its own 30.
What did low-ran Hugh Freeze say in his press conference today after the win?
I don't know. Did he say something?
I don't know. I'm curious. I don't know.
I
guess that's a question for Gabriel. How much stuff is he doing every day right now?
Gabe?
Yeah, like what's he doing broadcast?
He did a long post-game show.
Did he?
Where he sent me a message that said, "Who knew people like winning?" His numbers were much different after a win than they were after a loss to South Carolina. Who did they lose to a week ago? Tennessee.
Yeah, Tennessee. Alabama and then Tennessee. Let's see. What did he say?
You looking for Hugh Freeze?
I'm looking for Drinkwitz stuff.
Oh, Elijah.
I called him the
Little
red
Hugh.
Yeah,
Little Hugh.
Like I said, it's just going to make him more annoying. I did say he said that. What does it say? Nobody circles the wagons like Mizzou people. I did see that quote from Elijah. I mean, we both might be selling insurance. Had Keith hired Elijah Drinkwitz right now.
It'd be rough. It'd be rough because we'd be dealing with a lot of the stuff that can be difficult for our jobs, but it wouldn't be funny.
No.
Like with Kiffin, it's entertaining.
Yeah, it's kind of
where
funny.
people say, "Do you wish you had more access?" And you're like, I mean, I guess, but this is fun. This is kind of different. And it's an adventure. With Drinkwitz, it would be like, really? We're doing all this for
I mean, maybe he makes me eat my words, but I just don't believe it.
People are asking us in the stream, is this if Arkansas were to win this game, and they're one score away,
sure,
is this a fireable offense for Gus? And again, I get back into the money. Look at the crowd. Auburn is basically just letting the students in.
Are they?
Yeah, Auburn is losing money hand over fist. I don't know. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. To answer a question about whether you can afford to fire a coach right now, you have to be able to answer the following question. And I don't know that anyone really can with 100% certainty. And you would want certainty.
Okay.
Are you this time a year from now, are stadiums packed? And that requires two things. That requires the allowance for it to be packed, and then the confidence on the part of people to pack it.
I'm 85% sure it's a yes.
See, I think I agree with you.
Give me 100,
but that 15% would keep me up at night if I were paying off a $30 million buyout.
Well, sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's what would scare the hell out of me.
Oh, it was stupid play calling on LSU's part.
Today? At the end?
Yeah. Drinkwitz on the final defensive stand. It was our will versus theirs. We wanted it more.
Stop.
Okay, great. Yeah.
It's a bad loss for LSU.
They're
a bad loss. They looked so bad on defense. That's Missouri that lit them up for 45. And the quarterback's good.
LSU Auburn's going to be a boring game.
Oh, I agree. Felipe, you can't hold it that long, champ. It's a 12-second 1-yard gain. No yard gain.
Yeah, I was looking for some Drinkwitz quotes. I'm not seeing many. Dave Matter did not tweet much out after the game. It's usually the person that does a little press conference stuff for Mizzou.
Ben Leslie in the thread points out that ULM struggled against Liberty today.
Yeah, Hugh lit him up, didn't he?
He did.
They're bad, though.
Yeah.
Like, really bad.
Yeah. ULM's rough. I've messaged Corey, but he appears to be preoccupied.
Are they doing things other than wanting to talk to us with 20 minutes to go before kickoff?
That's my guess. We can open up phone lines if you want.
What are you going to do?
Okay, we'll take a couple
We're just
calls.
watching Auburn, Arkansas.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Okay. Let's see.
662-259-0991. 662-259.
Oh, he's going to get a first down. That's what he's done for them. They're not a good offense by any stretch of the imagination. Franks has made them where they make better decisions. Last year, their quarterback would have tried to force a ball down the field.
Yeah, they're not good, but they.
He just did something to his right thumb, something to keep an eye on. Maybe it was his fingers. I couldn't tell.
21, sorry, 44-21 now Georgia over Tennessee. 50 seconds left in that one. Auburn not getting much pressure either before. I mean,
No, they're getting good coverage downfield, but they're not able to pressure the quarterback. I'm a little worried that our phone is not taking calls, but I could be wrong.
it rang a minute ago, didn't it?
That was me calling Corey.
I know it sounded normally.
Yeah.
Oh.
Auburn's gotten a little beat up on defense some too.
Trask 23 of 32 for 312 and 4 today. Again, didn't find Pitts. Arkansas with another first down.
Another first down at the Auburn 46.
Yeah.
8:06 to go.
Still like Kentucky tonight?
I think so, but man, I'm now like so. The whole day's got me where I don't know. And my picks have gone terribly, even though
It's just a big blob.
yeah.
Everybody has flaws. Hardly anybody's good on defense. Franks is getting hit every play.
He's getting hit a lot. He is taking a beating.
Arkansas doesn't have a lot of skill players that can get open down the field, and it's just this constant.
Right.
I mean, that's what a lot of this is. The weather here, just looking outside the window here in the studio, a little bit of wind, a little bit of rain, but nothing crazy at all. We've seen this before. I don't think it will impact either team a ton.
They get an offsides on that play. It's a free shot.
2 Auburn players knocked the ball from one another, but again, I think it was a free play.
Let's see. I'll put the number up. There it is. 662-259-0991 is the number. You can call. We'll take your call. We got 6:13, so we got
about 10 minutes.
About 10 minutes or so. Yep. 2 weeks in a row where we're just watching.
James says, how long before Ole Miss can somewhat compete with Bama? We're putting the clock at about 700 days, and we'll see where things are at that point.
About 2 years. Took way too long for that play to develop. One of those delay draws.
That's what I'm watching State. I'm watching Arkansas. I know they beat State last week. They obviously are only one score here from winning, but they are so bad at the skill positions.
Yeah, Morris did not do a good job of recruiting at all. Hey, who do we have?
It's Charles.
Hey, Charles, what's up?
I was calling Neal. Did you reboot your computer?
I rebooted a couple of times today, so we should be good.
All right, that's all I cared about. Was you were awful upset about it last week.
Well, it was a bit of a mess last week, but it led me to research some things and iron some things out. So, but I do appreciate your concern because I was a little worried about it.
Yeah, I was good.
All right, thanks.
Phone lines work. That's
yeah,
good.
phone lines work.
All right.
I was a little concerned.
Good test there from
Yeah.
Charles.
Appreciate that from Charles. We had some people asking, are we going to do a post-game show? Yes, we will do a post-game show. We will stay with you for a while.
For a little while. We'll see what happens.
We'll see how late.
Let's see what the score is. We'll see what the mood is. We do have some things to do.
We do, and if I'm in just a super mood and Chase needs to go, I might even stay with you for 30 minutes by myself. But we'll see. We'll see what it looks like and how much you guys want to chat. Chase has to drive. I don't.
Will Bo Pelini be fired at some point this season?
I don't know. Again,
will you have in-season fires?
I don't know what they've offered to pay him. I don't know what kind of beating they're taking financially. I'm telling you, man, the money is going to be an issue this year.
I mean,
I'm telling you, money's going to be a real issue this year. Hey, who do we have?
Hey, this is Robert from Clinton.
Hey, Robert, what's up?
Not a whole lot, sitting on the back porch, hanging out with my 6-year-old. We did not have hot dogs this weekend, so we didn't have to get in that conversation about whether or not ketchup belongs, because like I said last week, it's arguing with the 6-year-old is a lot like arguing with the 6-year-old. But we did smoke some ribs on the Big Green Egg, which has led me to the next thing.
Okay.
My birthday's coming up in 10 days, and I know y'all have gone through the Big Green Egg trend. I've got mine over here. I love it. But I'm getting a Blackstone, so I'm really excited. But I'm wondering, is this going to be just the trendy thing that I'm stuck with, or do you think that I'll actually get the use out of it? I've gotten more use out of the egg than I thought I would because it takes forever to light up. But I don't have anything gas, so this will be something that's a little bit different. That's not a grill.
Yeah, I don't know, because they look cool. I've never used them. I've played around with the thought of getting one. I really can't say. I don't know.
What do you most want to do with it? Are we doing timeliness, Rob? Like what are certain kinds of food? Like what? How are we going to start ratioing our egg versus our Blackstone?
Well, see, I want to kind of like make them work together, right? We need to complement, kind of like an Ole Miss offense that can score a lot of points can complement a defense that's struggling. So what we did tonight was we usually just do one rack of ribs because my wife and I and my 6-year-old, we love to eat ribs. My 9-year-old won't touch anything that's not a fried chicken strip, so she's always out of the coalition. But we did 2 racks tonight, and we had probably a little bit over half of a rack left. And I kept thinking, I love a Cuban sandwich. That's probably one of my favorite sandwiches.
It is my favorite.
Me too.
Sandwich.
I love a Cuban.
It's very good. So I've been kind of knowing that I've been getting this Blackstone coming up. I've been playing around with recipes and watching stuff online, and I kept thinking, if we have pulled pork left over, or if I have leftover rib meat, I can kind of chop it up and try to do almost like a barbecue hybrid version of a Cuban, where instead of having the roast pork, just use some rib meat and a little bit of barbecue sauce to where it gives a little bit of flavor, but still keep the mustard, still keep the pickles and the ham, and to where it's a pig, but it's not the roasted thing. So maybe I could kind of, like I said, complement it to where what I have left over that I've smoked I could use. But I also want to. I told my wife I'm going to get a full menu of nothing but street food. You can't find much of that here in Clinton. So why go out and find it when I can just have it on my back porch?
It's sort of like what Blind Pig does with their Cuban. It's a shredded pulled pork, almost kind of like a barbecue with them. Like it's not the slices or the shavings that most typical would be with a Cuban. So yeah, I'm all about it. I understand that. I get it.
I'm excited. We've got some of the we ordered some of the where you can make the shapes for the pancakes or whatever, but they're the same. Like you have where the circles, like the egg circles, where if you've got it on a big flat top like that, but these are all in shape. So I guess we could make some Christmas tree eggs and such.
Have you done the pizza on the egg?
Yeah, I've done it, and I always mess up the bottom of the crust. It's all so good, but the bottom of the crust is so burnt, and I always think it's probably
you might have your egg too.
I don't know if I have it too hot.
You might have your egg too hot. You got your egg too hot, and are you using some cornmeal on the stone?
Yeah, I'm using cornmeal, but I still think it might be the type of dough that I'm using that I make. I don't know if I'm using the right.
I've done better.
But yeah, I do think it is too hot.
Yeah, if you make it too hot, you will burn it. You've got to get it down because that stone gets so hot, and so you've got to get the other heat down a little bit. So, hey, thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
Yep, thank y'all.
Have a good day, Rob.
So Arkansas up a point, about 5 minutes and change to go, getting a little tight for Alan Green and the people at Auburn.
Jay's postgame.
Ooh. Hey, caller, who do we have?
Hey, y'all. It's Mark from Columbus.
Hey, Mark.
I was just sitting in a bar in Asheville, North Carolina, next to an Auburn fan, and I said, "Are you kind of rooting for Arkansas here?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, kind of." I think literally 100% of their fan base wants him gone, and have for years.
They wanted a reason to want him gone for years. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Like they've been itching for the shoe to drop.
He'll find a way. Then he says, "Well, he'll probably find a way to beat Bama, and they'll keep him." But
not what I've seen so far. Not what I've seen so far. I tell you what, man. But for both of you guys, I'm really curious to see what happens this season in a year when teams, when I say they can't afford to fire people, they can't afford to fire people. But when the equation goes from can't afford to can't afford not to, I don't know what that equation looks like in a COVID year when you're not positive, and I do mean 100% positive, that you're going to be able to sell a lot of tickets next season.
Yeah, this guy was like, he's just like, he runs a high school offense, and he brought a guy in who runs a high school offense. It's just, I said, well, maybe Rain will cut a big check. I said, that's what I told him. I said, problem is, who's got the money to fire anybody?
Yeah, we're talking.
But
we've
hey,
done
Neal.
Hey, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying we're talking $30 million. I mean, we're talking real money. I mean, and then you got to hire somebody, and then you got to pay them, and you got to pay off staff, and you got to bring in a new staff. And what happens if, like, let's say Chase's percentage is right, 85%. What happens if the 15% comes true? And next season is another COVID-affected year, and you can't fill up but half of your stadium. At a place like Auburn, that's 42,000 tickets a game. It's a lot of money that's left on the table. It's real money. It has to get really paid.
You ain't lying. Well, we were back for a half, Neal.
Yeah, you were
back for a half.
You were really back.
That's better than not back at all.
You were half back.
We were half back. We were there for a half.
Yeah, and then you weren't.
God.
Yeah.
Then JG decided to wake up, and I'm looking forward to Lane tonight. I think he'll keep it. I remember when he went down to Florida his first year at Tennessee, and he ran his mouth about Urban Meyer, and going down there, they went down like a 28-point dog. And Urban, he was pretty ruthless, and you're like, oh God, he's going to just run it up on him. It's going to be 62-7. But Lane played that thing so tight, and he just played not to get blown. And it was beautiful. They only lost by like 10 points. They were with them. I mean, they were in the game in the fourth quarter. They bucked it up, ran the play clock down long way. And I wonder if Lane goes that route to try to keep the score respectable, or just comes out guns blazing and tries to put a lot on TV for recruits. I'll hang up and
you do the. Thanks for the call. You do the latter. You do the latter. You put on the show. By the way, happy birthday to Kara Parham.
It is.
Today's a birthday. Yeah.
My mother as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They share the same birthday?
They do.
Oh, wow.
October 10th. Yep.
Well, no chance of you forgetting that.
Auburn hits the wheel route.
That was a nice play. That was a nice play.
Actually, wasn't a wheel. It was just kind of flared, but either way. 28-27 as we're closing this stream, headed into our other one.
Yep.
Let's see, 4 minutes to go on this.
4 and counting. They're at the Arkansas 17. You're Arkansas. You're feeling good about life right now, and you're calling kids going, hey, look, see, we're going to compete.
Mm-hmm.
You're calling kids all over Arkansas and Texas and Louisiana, and you're telling them we can compete with these guys. If we could get some of you, we could really compete. It's not the worst recruiting strategy in the world. That's why I think Ole Miss has a national stage tonight. I think Lane tries to show recruits what he wants to do.
Lane wearing a Manning mask right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
Not speaking to anyone there at all.
Oh, no. There's no message being sent to any recruit there. No, sir.
That one just got put in his locker this morning and
yeah.
went, you know what, we're just going to wear that one. So, anyway.
Yeah, not trying to say a word to anyone there. All right, it's 6:24. Again, our thanks to Emily Blount. Our thanks to Tony.
A lot of people.
Huh?
Yeah, a lot of people.
Tony Tsoukalas. Who else did we? Ryan Brown. Yeah. So thanks to a lot of people for the last almost 2 hours. So what we'll do is we'll close this stream. We'll open a new one. We'll have it up in time for kickoff, And we'll be with you for our MPW Digital Watch Party, Alabama at Ole Miss here